All right. Before we go on, I just wanted to give anyone a chance to ask any questions that they had based on what you've heard so far. Questions, comments? Go ahead.
When you get texts to your cell phone, obvious what they are, but what's the right thing to do? Block it, or does that give them information?
I always block it.
Would you mind repeating the question?
Yes. So the question was, what should you do if you get a text message that looks suspicious on your phone? And what I tell people is never respond to it. Just block the number and then delete it. And if you don't know how to block a number or an email, let me know at the end of the presentation and I'll take a moment and help you do that. I'm glad you asked that question too, because I also want to talk about Facebook. How many people said they were on Facebook in here? All right. When's the last time you looked at your privacy settings on Facebook? Did you know there was such a thing as privacy settings on Facebook? Okay. So what I'm finding is a lot of people don't realize that their Facebook privacy settings are set to public. And usually there's a picture of a globe. That means anyone in the world can see your Facebook profile. Anyone in the world can see your post. I can show you how to fix that in just a couple minutes if you want to let me help you at the end of the presentation. Or you can just give me a call and I can walk you through it on the phone, whatever you prefer.
I got an email about that, and I looked at it and I said, well, what are the odds that this is somebody spoofing me into getting me to set my settings, or I'm making them
It could be. It could be because imposters will pretend to be anyone they want, right?
Sword.
Yep.
This question may be a bit detailed, but I was on Facebook, and I received a message that said that I was posting things that were inappropriate, or they were against Facebook rules, and that this came through Facebook, and I ignored it because I knew I hadn't been. Well, on eve of Easter, I was told this is your last opportunity to essentially file an appeal.
Right.
Or we're going to take your information down. And it said that my Instagram account was the problem. Well, it turned out that it really was someone had hacked my Instagram account, which I had never used. I set it up but never used it. Didn't pay attention to it. And I've been taken down from Facebook permanently. They removed my account, and I don't have access to Messenger anymore. Is there something that I should be worried about, that the Instagram hacker has my identity?
Right. So it all comes down to those Facebook privacy settings or those Instagram privacy settings. This actually happened to my aunt. Someone posing as my aunt on Facebook Messenger had reached out to all of her contacts on Facebook Messenger and said that her nephew had cancer and they were gathering donations for him to be able to pay his hospital bills and his travel expenses and that sort of thing. The problem is that people can hack into social media accounts pretty easily. That's why you want to be very careful. There was a time and a day when I used my full name on Facebook, right? Sheila Brewer Montero. I don't do that anymore. Now it's just Sheila Lynn. You can make up a name too. That would be another way to have your own, right? A name that only you and your family and your close friends are going to know. But really the key is that privacy settings in the background. You want those privacy settings set to only me or only friends, never to public. Does that answer your question?
Not exactly.
Okay.
I'll just one more try. So I have been taken off Facebook.
Right.
And I did try to set up a different account, and it because of my phone number and my birthday, I'd have to invent a whole new persona.
You'd have to invent a new date of birth.
And I don't want to do that, so I'll give up Facebook. That's fine. But I wonder if this person that was using my identity on Instagram they keep doing things in my, under my Instagram?
They very well could. And at that point, what you want to do is reach out to the Instagram people and see what they are suggesting. But make sure when you reach out to Instagram that you really know you're talking to Instagram.
That's been my
Quandary.
challenge, because
Yep.
Instagram and Messenger and Facebook are all owned by the
They're
same
connected now.
Meta.
They're connected now.
I tried to reach out to Meta to let them explain this whole thing, and that led to, and I actually found a phone number, and I wasn't comfortable giving that person all the information because
Right.
they were asking for my social security number.
Yep.
So it was impossible to try to get through to any person to know that to get this straightened out.
Mhm.
So when I did send in my appeal,
Mhm.
I don't know if it went to the scammer or if it went to Meta.
Mhm. A lot of it depends on what information you set to in the appeal. Did you give your social security number during? Okay, good. That's a number you never want to give out to anybody. Okay, no matter what. Go ahead.
So over the past 2 weeks or so, Meta has released its computerized glasses, computerized Ray-Ban glasses.
So interesting. Okay.
Two students at Harvard
Mhm.
hacked the software and merged it with other software which is free on the internet, so that with that pair of glasses you can look at anyone on the street. It will process and look through all sorts of databases and search for that image and relate that image of that person's face to all kinds of personal data which is available on the web
Mhm.
within like a minute.
Artificial intelligence.
Look
Yep.
somebody on the street.
Yep.
Look at their face on the street.
Mhm.
The glasses collect that image
Mhm.
and feed back to you all the personal information about that individual.
Mhm.
Now, these two Harvard students say they will not release that software hack that they developed. They did it in order to warn people that this is what's coming with this new product that Meta has just released.
It kind of sounds like we're in a Matrix movie, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tough one because artificial intelligence is going to bring a lot of medical advancements. For example, that's a way that it can be used for good because we're teaching the machines to learn, right? And the machines are going to be able to help us in a lot of the different medical fields. But the flip side is it's also going to help scammers, right? Remember when you used to get something in the mail and it might have had grammar mistakes on it or spelling mistakes and you knew right away that it wasn't really from your bank or Amazon or Walmart or whoever, it was from a scammer? Well, now scammers are using artificial intelligence to make sure they're not making spelling mistakes, to make sure they're not making any grammatical mistakes. So yeah, definitely something to look out for. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the future in just a sec, about the kinds of things that we need to be especially on the lookout for. All right, prize sweepstakes and lottery scams. Woman in her 70s has a little bit of cognitive decline, not much. She got a phone call. She lives up in Rochester. She got a phone call one day and it said Publishers Clearinghouse on her phone. And there was a 1-800 or 188 number, so it looked legitimate. So she answered it. Congratulations, Mrs. So-and-so. You've won our second place prize of $500,000, and we're going to throw in a brand new Toyota Tacoma truck. All you have to do is to confirm your personal information, and we need you to pay for the processing fees and taxes up front. That'll be $20,000, please. Well, she got excited. And what is $20,000 if you have $500,000 coming in a minute, right? So what did she do? She paid the fees. Now, she didn't tell her husband about this phone call because she wanted to surprise him. The very next day, she went out to sit on her porch about 8:30 in the morning. And she sat out there all morning. And her husband thought, well, that's odd. She never sits on the porch like that. Something's going on. But then he thought, well, it's a nice day. You know, she's probably just enjoying the fresh air. Second day, she goes out on her porch, 8:30, sitting there. She's sitting there. Finally, the husband couldn't take it anymore. He said, what are you doing out here? What are you doing? Honey, I didn't want to tell you, but we won the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. $500,000. They're going to show up any minute with that big check, right? The balloons, the champagne, the flowers. And of course, the husband realized that this was a scam and that wasn't really a reality. Here's what we tell people. If you have to pay to collect a prize, I don't care if it's the lottery or the sweepstakes or some cruise around the world for two. If you have to pay to collect a prize, it's not a prize. Real lotteries, real sweepstakes are going to take that money off the top before you even get your winnings, right? Here's some other scams, and there's a million of them. Contractor home improvement scams, utility scams. That's where someone pretends to be RG&E. Is that what they do, the electric up here, RG&E? Or maybe a gas company that you are with. They might be pretending to be from Verizon or AT&T or Spectrum. Charity scams. A lot of people, you know, give money to charity. There's some really great charities out there. Here's what we tell people about giving to charity. If you want to give to charity, give locally. There's a lot of nonprofits in your community that are doing great work that you can help, right? For Rochester Parkinson Network and Lifespan of Greater Rochester, right? But there are local libraries, right? Historical societies, a lot of times they're a nonprofit, right? Youth sports, you know, youth soccer, youth baseball, what have you. Scouting, right? Here's what we tell people, give locally. Give locally. That means if you know where the American Red Cross office is, or one of them is nearby, go physically to the office and make that donation, or call their correct phone number and make a donation, okay? On this piece of paper, which I highly recommend, I'm sorry it's in black and white, my computer at home stopped printing in color for the moment. This is our scams resource sheet. On the back, there's a section that has Charity Watch and Charity Navigator, and there's two websites. So www.charitywatch.org. You can go on that website, and every charity, it's alphabetical, and every charity that's listed gets a grade, just like we used to when we were in school, A, B, C, D, F. And then it will tell you the percentage of your donation that goes to the actual cause and the percentage that's used for their overhead and operating cost, right? Government grant scams. I've had a couple of these. Right now I'm working with a lady down in Steuben County. She was contacted by an agent of the United States government who said she had won or she had qualified for a $120,000 government grant, but all she had to do was pay $5,000 and something up front. So I'm going to try to get some of her money back. How do I do that? Our team works with the New York State Office of Victim Services. If we can prove to them that a fraudulent transaction happened, and we have all the paperwork backing that up, I can get $100 back for every financial transaction of $100 or more up to $2,500. That's the cap, $2,500. So if you lost $500,000, you're going to get $2,500 back. If you lost $2,500, you're going to get $2,500 back if we can prove it in the paperwork. So that's a big one that's going on right now. Military scams. This is where someone reaches out and says they're with the United States military and their tour is about to end. They're going to retire from the military. Right now they're stationed overseas and they don't have the money to get home. They need money for a plane ticket. No, you don't. How do our military people get home? Military. Might be in a nice passenger plane, but it could be in a cargo plane or ship or some combination of those. Another related military scam is, oh, you know, my tour of duty is ending in Japan. And I'm coming home for Christmas. I haven't been, here comes the heartstrings. I'm coming home for Christmas. I haven't been with my family for Christmas in many years because of being in the military. I just don't have money to ship my belongings home. I don't have money to ship my presents home to my family members. There's another twist on that one. Check scams. That's when you get a check in the mail that looks legitimate. Remember they used to come and they were on super thin paper and they were in black and white? And there's probably spelling mistakes on there, and we knew right away, oh, this is not a real check, this is a fraudulent check. Well, guess what? Scammers have upped their game. Now it's printed on heavier paper. It's probably printed in color. There's no grammatical mistakes on there. There's no spelling mistakes on here. Let me give you an example. You go to your mailbox one day and there's a letter from Amazon with an attached check to it. We checked your Amazon account. We see that we overcharged you about $3,000 over the past several years. Here's the check. Go ahead and deposit it in your account. When you deposit in your account, call this number. So the person takes the check to the bank. The bank looks it over. The bank tellers have been trained to spot fraudulent checks. Not even the bank teller can tell it's fraudulent. It's deposited. Okay? The person does as instructed and goes home and calls the person. I deposited the check. Oh, great. Hey, by the way, we noticed a typo on the check. We didn't owe you $3,000. We only owed you $300. How would you like to pay the $2,700 difference? Do you want to use a credit card? Do you want to use your bank routing number? Do you want to go to Target and buy some gift cards and pay that way? So that's how the check scams usually go. Your money's the collateral because the bank's not going to realize it's a fraudulent check for a couple of days, right? Investment scams. We see more and more of these all the time. I don't know if any of you watched CBS this morning, but they've been doing a whole series about scams in older adults. And I think investment scams is one of the topics they've covered. Okay, we're circling back. Why Target? Okay. Sometimes, well, ageism is alive and well. We know that, right? Sometimes older adults are less tech savvy. Not necessarily. I've met 80-year-olds that can do things with computers that I could never dream of doing. Older adults have more money, we talked about. Dementia and other cognitive changes. Every time I do this presentation, people say to me, well, they must have had Alzheimer's, or they must have been in severe cognitive decline. No, not really. The hundreds of victims I've worked with, I think I had 2 victims that had any kind of cognitive change. And they were super mild, okay? Think about what you share on social media. Here's what we're telling people. Don't say you're retired on your Facebook profile. Don't say you're single. Don't say you're divorced or widowed. Why? Because scammers are looking for those specific words to target you. Besides the loss of money, there are a whole bunch of other losses. Loss of trust in others, loss of sense of security, fear, shame, guilt, depression, and isolation. This is what I deal with on the day-to-day, those feelings listed there. Financial hardship. I have worked with people that have lost their home because of scams. They've lost their only vehicle because of scams. They've lost their entire life savings because of a scam. We've talked about these. These are common techniques used by scammers. By the way, be very careful. When you Google something, all of this stuff pops up at the top of the screen, and a lot of times there'll be a little word under there that says sponsored. Don't click on a website because you think it's the real website. Anytime you Google anything, scroll down a couple pages because that's where the real websites are going to be. The scammers pay for those things that pop up on the screen first. Try to get your attention and get you.
Why are they allowed to do that? You know it's a scam.
Right? It's an algorithm. So I don't know how they do it, but they make a lot of hits. They probably use a computer to make it look like someone has Googled that so many times, way more than anyone else, and then it looks legitimate. They use the same logos and everything like that. But yeah, they get away with it. They get away with it because of the algorithms that Google uses. Gift cards. Once again, I'm going to say gift cards are for gifts. They are never to pay someone. Never, ever, ever. I don't know if you noticed, maybe a year and a half ago now, there's little signs at all the gift card places in the stores that say, be careful, right? Don't be a cash or money mule. We talked about people putting money in boxes and envelopes. Okay, these are the scammers' 5 favorite ways to get you to pay them. Gift cards. Why? Because that money is immediately gone after you read that code to them. Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. If you don't know what a Bitcoin machine looks like, it looks exactly like an ATM machine, and you've probably seen a Bitcoin machine before and not realized that it wasn't an ATM machine. It kind of works the opposite way of an ATM. We put our card in the ATM, we get money out. In Bitcoin, you put the cash in the machine, and then it prints out a code for you. And that code is like your receipt that you sent that money, right? Cash in the mail, wire transfers, and peer-to-peer payments using apps such as Cash App and Venmo. Sometimes people say to me, do you use Cash App or Venmo? Yeah, but I only use it with people I know about, right? Like, I tutor high school kids on the side. It's kind of like my side gig that I do. Yeah, their parents pay me via Venmo, but I know their parents. I've been in their home. I've talked to them, right? There's all different kinds of identity theft. We talked about identity theft as it relates to your Social Security number. There's also tax-related identity theft, employment identity theft, synthetic identity theft, which I actually had to Google the first time I did this presentation because I never heard of that. Basically, what a scammer does with synthetic identity theft is they take, for example, a date of birth of someone that's deceased, and they take a Social Security number from somebody else, and they take a driver's license picture from somebody else, and they create a brand new identity. Kind of what you were talking before, someone posing as you on Instagram, right? Criminal identity theft, that's where you get pulled over and you give someone else's name as to who you are. And so now your name is connected to a crime, right? These are places that people get information. A lot of times I do these presentations and people say to me, well, I'm not on the internet, so there's nothing about me on the internet. Well, there is. If you Google your name, you'd be surprised at how much pops up. There's also a lot of services out there that you can do background checks on people that'll cost you $10. You can find out everything you want to know, kind of like when you were talking about those glasses. Right? It's the same idea. Data breaches, sucker list, and a lot of times we just give them the information unknowingly. You guys ever heard of skimming? So that's where the criminal puts a very super thin plastic metal type device inside the area where you scan or you put your card in to get money at the ATM machine. And when you slide your card, it keeps the numbers, and usually criminals can collect up to like 2,500 people's card numbers by doing that. Not only will you see them at ATM sometimes, but you also see them at gas stations where you put your credit card in. Here's what we're telling people. Now you have the option to tap your card, right? At a lot of places. We're telling people tap instead of slide it or insert it. Tap it instead. Will the scammers eventually figure that out? Yes, they will. But in the meantime, it's safer than sliding it, and it's safer than inserting it. These are the 3 credit reporting companies. And then this is kind of like a number that's connected to the other 3. A lot of people don't realize that they can call these credit reporting companies, and they can place what they call a credit freeze, a fraud alert or a credit freeze. These green and light green cards are super for information about this. One of the first things we do when someone calls us and says that they've been a victim of a scam is we sit down with them and we find out, we have them look for their credit report. You can get a really good credit report. This is on the scams resource sheet. We tell people to use www.annualcreditreport.com. So we'll sit with our victims and do it with them if they're not comfortable with computers, or if they're comfortable, we just walk them through it. Basically, you want to look at your credit report line for line. A lot of people think it's okay just to know their credit score, but that's not the case. You want to be looking at your credit report line for line at least once every 6 months. At least once every 6 months. Now, don't let the name fool you. Annual credit report makes it sound like you can only get one free one a year. But ever since COVID happened, Americans can now get on that website every 7 days to make sure no one's opened a credit card in their name that they didn't know about. No one's tried to get a mortgage in your name. No one's tried to buy a car in your name. All that kind of thing. How to avoid becoming a victim. Do I have any Pink Floyd fans in the room? Oh! Remember back in the day when we could just use one word and that was our password? But then they got all fancy on us and we needed a capital letter and we needed a lowercase letter and we needed a number and a special character, right? Well, I learned this actually from a participant in one of my presentations. He says he uses phrases instead of words. So I decided, well, I'm a diehard Pink Floyd fan. Dark Side of the Moon. The best album ever created, in my opinion. The best album. I even listen to it on the way up here. Once a day, you know. What I did was I took a song off that album that is one of my favorites, and I took a lyric out of that song. And that 3-word lyric with some special characters is my password. Why? Because it's easier for me to remember lyrics than any other password I'm going to try to generate. And once that one runs out, right, every 3 or 6 months or whatever it is, I just go to the next part of the song, and I got a new lyric to put in there. It'll last you a long time. Please be careful.
I actually do the same thing.
Do you really?
Because it's the only way I can remember the password because I can sing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can sing it in your head. And then if you do like I do, and when that one expires, it's just going to be the next line.
Oh, I just have
So it really
I have
helps.
to find another favorite song.
There you go.
But if she's superstitious about the people that she's getting that password from, she only uses the first letter of each word.
I use the first letter of the song. Okay, I already used this one, Fly Me to the Moon. I really like that song. So just, use the first letter and then throw a couple extra things in and you're good.
Yep.
That was good.
Yep.
And you sing that to yourself 12 times a day.
So just be careful emailing, texting, or even talking on the phone. A lot of times people come up to me at the end and they'll say, what apps can I download onto my phone to stop robocalls, right? Or what apps can I download to my phone to make sure that it's secure? I will tell you what your number one defense is. Your number one defense is yourself. Why? When the phone rings, and if you're at all suspicious or you don't recognize the number, please just don't answer it. That is your number one defense. Don't answer it. People say to me, well, what if it's something important? What if it's a family member? What if it's a friend and I didn't recognize their number and I missed the call? Let it go to your voicemail. Guess what? Your friends and family are going to leave you a voicemail. If you need help with your voicemail, let me know. I'll help you. Or someone in your family is good with cell phones, let them help you, okay? There's only one correct number for Medicaid, Medicare, okay? It's on that scams resource list. How many people have a smart TV in their home? What's a smart TV? It's another computer in our lives. That's what it is. And how many times a day do you see commercials for Medicare and Medicaid? You might be eligible for $8,000 in additional benefits.
Tis the season right now.
Right. 'Tis the season right now because it's renewal time, right? So you got to be careful. Some people purchase computer antivirus. You are the referee of your device. You're the one in charge of that cell phone, computer, iPad, okay? This is me. That's my work cell phone. I do work remotely from the Southern Tier. I'm usually up in Rochester at least 2 or 3 times a month, depending on what's going on with the team. There's my email. If there was anything in the presentation that sparked anything for you and you have more questions, feel free to give me a call. The last thing I'm going to ask you to do today is fill out the evaluation that I placed on the table. This just shows my boss that I was doing something productive on a Monday. All right.
What's the date today?
Today is the 7th, we said, right? 10/7. Also, all of this information on this table is free. Please take a lot. I will get my cards on the table. Thank you for reminding me. Please take a lot. If you belong to another organization or club or group that you think might benefit from a free presentation, please let us know by calling the main number or calling the number on my card, and I'll get you to the right person. We do these presentations anywhere and everywhere. Libraries, Rotary clubs, assisted living places, churches, you name it. I've probably done a presentation at veterans associations. Do I have any questions before I turn you loose?
I do have one. So your suggestion is if you get a phone call, just end it, because I got this great one, it was border control, there's a package for me.
Oh, a package at border control.
And I'm like, you know, I also understood you're not supposed to say yeah, you're not supposed to say anything. It's like
Correct.
hello. And then I'm listening to this, and I kind of wanted to ask, well, what name do you have? But I hung up.
Right, and you
just
did
hang
exactly the right thing. You don't need to be polite.
Yeah.
We were raised to be polite, right? You never hang up on someone on the phone. You have my permission not to be polite. Just hang up the phone, because they were going to record your voice. And if they already know your name and now they've got your voice, they can do a lot of damage with just those 2 pieces of information. Go ahead.
It's a problem that I run into. It seems like my social security number is already out there in a million different places. There's no secrets about it.
Yep. If you haven't checked your credit report in a long time, we can help you do that.
I do. I check it regularly.
Good, good, good. Very good. Go ahead.
I went to a store to buy something and I opened up an account. They wanted my last 4 numbers of social security,
Yes.
and I did give it to them.
So she's talking about going to a local department store or store of some sort, and they wanted the last 4 numbers of your,
25% off.
for 25% off. Give us, your last 4 so we can give you a credit card. Yes, stores will ask for that information. And if that's why it's a problem, if the criminals get a hold of your social security number, then they can open credit cards wherever they want because they've got the last 4 of your social. But yeah, it's normal for them to ask for the last 4 because
No way to get around that.
there's no way to get around it because it's connected to your credit history and your credit report. Okay, you had one question?
Yeah, there's been a huge data breach that, so that the social security numbers out on the web, the dark web and all that. I went and I worked with is there anything else I should be doing?
Yes. Make sure you follow the steps in this identity theft booklet. Here's what we tell people. If you're ever a victim of a fraud or scam, we kind of use those words interchangeably, you're going to want to make sure that no one has taken your personal information to open up any new accounts that you don't know about. You're also going to want to make sure you report it. Federal Trade Commission, FTC.gov, report fraud, right? I think it's on this one. Identitytheft.gov, G-O-V. Make sure you pay attention. It's .gov. If it's .com, it could be someone pretending to be from the federal government. Okay?
What about the brochures you get from credit card companies? You've been pre-approved.
Right.
And it's always, there's a personal number, and I take them, I rip them up and put it in a shred, but I worry, with somebody going through my mailbox,
Right.
because how do they, you know what I mean? So is there any way to, I don't understand.
You can get on a do not send list or do not call registry, that kind of thing.
It's an opt-out thing.
An opt-out, there's
But I was-
opt-out, yep.
I remember trying to do it, but then again, they also want your social security number. Like, I don't know.
Right. The best thing to do is just shred that stuff, in my opinion. Because it could be a scammer pretending to be a credit card company.
Well, I would never use that anyway.
Mm-hmm. You had one more question?
Yeah, I heard advertisements on the radio about home title.
Yes.
Is there anything you can say about that?
That's a whole separate thing. And again, what I tell people to do is just look at that credit report at least once or twice a year to make sure there's no mortgages or anything open in your name that you don't know about. I'm no expert on that. My colleague Justin understands the title stuff a lot better. But yeah, people talk about it, but I've never actually worked with a victim of one. So I'm not sure how prevalent they really are in this region at the moment. Once a month, we meet with the FBI, local law enforcement, and the local financial institutions in the Finger Lakes. We have a monthly virtual meeting, and we kind of tell each other the trends that we're seeing, right? So sometimes, you know, the word of the month is romance scams, or the word of the month is investment scams, right? That are very prevalent. But I actually haven't seen a title deed scam victim yet. That doesn't mean they don't exist. I've just never personally worked with one.
Heard a news story about one this morning,
Yeah,
local,
a local one.
having trouble with his
Mm-hmm.
title or deed.
Yep.
I had an employee working for me who went home from work and found the foreclosure notice.
Oh dear.
Door to greet him when they got home.
Oh dear.
Her husband.
Yep. Check those credit reports and check your bank statements and check your credit card reports very carefully every single month. I know it's a pain to sit there and go line for line, but a lot of times what scammers do is that they'll just take out a little. They'll take out 99 cents from your account, or $2.99, or $5.99. And when they realize that you haven't seen that for several months, they're going to go for bigger amounts. So just keep a close eye on all your statements. Annualcreditreport.com. And remember, when you Google it, you're going to scroll down a little bit until you get to the real website. Don't pick the one at the top. All right? That's all I got.
Oh, excellent.
Thank you, Sheila.
You're welcome.
Thank you.